Spectacular. So, you may have heard of our next speaker before. She's been a leader in the lesbian, bisexual, transgender, and queer movement for the last 30 years. She formed the Ingersoll Gender Center, located in Seattle, Washington. And a few other accomplishments, if you are interested and curious, that I didn't get to earlier. Marsha also served as the co-chair of the Obama Pride campaign. That seems to have turned out rather well. And she was in the leadership of the Equality Across America March in Washington, D.C., speaking at the Capitol rally. And she's done all sorts of other really incredible, amazing things. And I will not prevent you all from hearing more from her instead of me. So please welcome Marsha back to the stage.
Well, goodness sakes, and thank you again. A little embarrassed here, maybe too much of me. You let me know, all right? Oh, goodness. So, you know, I looked out at the audience. I looked out at you a few moments ago after that award, and I felt whatever you feel when you feel really good. And that got me going, and I do that. But perhaps I can be a little calmer. I may need your help on this one. No? Oh, good. All right, well, let's see what happens. It's a bit of a ramble, but I want some thoughts out, and I want to throw them at you, and then I hope, and someone watch the time, please, that we can have a bit of a conversation. I'd love to hear some of your thoughts, or maybe something that none of us really know would come of it may pop into your mind. All right, so anyway, there you go. I'm not going to speak for either the National LGBTQ Task Force. It only took us 2 years to add the Q, incidentally, but the task force or Ingersoll Gender Center as an official representative. But I'm going to speak about them because I love them. I love them to death. The taskforce.org, IngersollGenderCenter.org. Oh, yes. They speak for themselves. So this gives me a little more freedom just to ramble on. And I tell you what I will ramble on tonight about is the matter of building the next stage in our movement. Now, news at 11, actually though, 11 tomorrow. Please be sure and go to a panel. Greta's going to be there and moderate that panel because there'll be much of this kind of talk at that panel and you'll get a chance to go into more details. I'm just going to, well, you'll see what I'm going to do. I'm going to offer a little bit of a history, filtered absolutely through me. I take responsibility. No one person can know it all. I certainly cannot even begin to approach the truth for the LGBTQ community as a whole. I might try, but you'll have to remember, calm me down. Don't let me do that. All right. Incidentally, I don't know if you heard Zach Ford's talk earlier today, or let's see, who else was it? Amanda and JT and Dell and a couple of the others. We all are speaking on somewhat similar things in powerful ways that really inspired me to take the chance, not scratch out some of the things that might duplicate, but just to go ahead and throw them out anyway and see what you think. So here are some thoughts from my own experience. In the beginning, there was gay. Then there was lesbian. Oh yes, then there was lesbian. Then there was bisexual, and then there was the transgender and gender nonconforming. Neither of those terms existed when I first started in this work. I'm glad they're there now. And of course, all of our groups were already there. All of us were already out in the world. And we all went through, or were going through similar things, similar stages, first despised and shunned, then coming out, then understood to some degree, and then human at last. Human at last. And inside the transgender movement, transgender, I was at a conference in London, somewhere in the 90s, when somebody stood up and used that term, transgender, first time. And all of us actors, oh my God, oh what, another term? We're famous for making up terms. But that's a good one, and it's stuck, and it's a pretty darn good term, and there's a lot of them out there. Don't worry about all those terms. But anyway, inside that movement, we also have followed a similar pattern. From being lost and lonely and classified as ill or sick in some other way or sinful Then beginning to organize just a little bit, yes, just a few folks together. There was one time in Seattle where, oh, well, here's some old terms, transsexual and transvestite folks getting together, meeting in a motel room because that's all we could find. And one day the owner came down and kind of peered in and said, oh, whoa, what's that? And kicked us all out. And, well, you know, we would have gone home usually. But there was a great person there among others, first named Janice, who said no, and filed some complaints. Bottom line, that motel owner had to put a little sign in the window saying they do not discriminate against transsexuals and transgender folks. That was a win at a time many years ago when such a stepping out was quite something. It was the beginning, the struggles, the education, the alliances that had to be built over so many years to begin to get a little closer to some kind of understanding. The arrival of evidence-based research. How odd. Now, I never thought it would be that would kick a few things loose. But you use all the tools that you can. There's an organization called the World Professional Association for Transgender Health. It's a research-based outfit. It's international. It's been around a long time. I joined in '84. And it's produced over the years a standard of care, set of evidence-based standards of care for responding to gender and gender identity issues. It's not rules or laws or anything like that. It's not set in stone. It's guidelines. But it is evidence-based. It's at that level of research. There have been seven issues of that standards of care. I was on the board of directors of this organization for the last one and on the writing committee. It's version 7. And in that version, there's a line that I love because it's coming from that crowd, and it's one of the tools, and here it is. It says that transgender and gender nonconforming people are an aspect of diversity, not pathology. Now that's a major change. That's something I can take to anywhere and use as a powerful tool because they might not have listened before in some venues, but they'll listen to that. Okay, so it is that our movement, that is transgender movement, if I can even dare call it that, there's so many of us going in so many different directions. We use all those tools, just as the others, lesbian, gay, bisexual, and all the other movements have done. So every stage for every group, it's a wonder, and it's a learning, and it's a moving, and it's winning, and it's losing, and it's struggling. And millions of conversations, all night ones. Can't quite do that like I used to, but millions of those conversations, making it all move along. And so the LGBTQ movement has moved and struggled and fought and won, and now we have marriage. 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 Yes. We have marriage. We have celebrity. Oh, yes, we do. Oh, my goodness sakes. And this is good. And it was good. But what did it take to get there? It took those thousands and thousands and thousands of conversations. It took so much, and we are not done. Oh, no. We are not done. We're not done. Is this the end? No. Is the LGBTQ movement done? Have we reached all the heights that can be reached? No, we haven't. Again, details at 11 tomorrow morning. Tune in. But marriage, celebrity, these are steps along the way. It's a moment in time, and it's there for all of us, isn't it? I mean, my goodness sakes, I think it's the same for the secular movement. I know it is. And for all these other movements, it's what happens to us. It's our mutual connection. It's our connection with other movements and other aspects of liberation. Yes, I think it is. So after marriage, AM, if you will, we live in an AM now. After marriage, oh, and yes, I married. Kimberly and I said, after 28 years, we might as well do it, now that it's legal, and besides, the protections are there. I mean, there's so many legal things involved with marriage. Okay, so let's see. But after marriage in Washington State, my home state, which we achieved in 2012, and now after marriage in this nation, something has happened. the funding that powered a lot of the LGBTQ movement fell off or disappeared. Yeah, now goodness sakes. I say beware of who funds and how dependent you become on funding. Yes, indeed, because there was some feeling in some places that now we really had achieved the heights. Well, I think, no, I'll say more on that later. But I tell you what, as the dust and the flowers settle down, the outline of what remains to be done is beginning to appear. Now, Ingersoll Gender Center knew there was a lot more to do. The LGBTQ task force knew a lot more had to be done. You knew that. And a lot of folks and a lot of organizations knew it. But now we absolutely know. We know that the opposition won't quit. Witness the RFRA, those aggravating attempts to legalize discrimination through religious belief systems. You know that we see operating all over the country now, those laws that people tend to try to pass now. Those are just getting stronger. Take a look, incidentally, at the dissenting justices' decisions in the Supreme Court marriage case. Some of them read almost as if they were the roadmap, the playbook for future attacks on marriage and the LGBTQ community. So there is a lot more to do. We know that transgender people, we know that trans people are employed less and served less by health and legal systems and murdered more than other groups, with trans people of color the most abused and harmed of all of us. We know that conversion therapies are bunk and fraud, but still exist and harm the lives of thousands of transgender and LGBTQ people. That phony therapy has got to go. That has got to go. You know what that is. That's where, and it's largely religious-based. That's where, we're going to bring you in, and we're going to cure you of your orientation. We're going to cure you of your identity. It's horrid. It's mean. It's cruel. It's bully business, and it's got to go. We're fighting it legally in Washington State, as many places are, and we will win. We will win. It is phony. It is a lie. It has to go. And there's another way we can fight it, incidentally, at Ingersoll my Center. We've got a consult group for therapists and physicians. And it started with just a few people. These are folks who can speak out against such things as that phony therapy. Now, there are 180 members of that group. 180 members, professionals, willing to put their names to the fight. So, all right. We also know that family laws and policies are in need of much more work, to be fully fair, much more work. And that bullying is a problem, and a big problem, and my goodness sakes, it's still rampant and it's still dangerous. We know that insurance and other economic plans and policies often exclude transgender people completely. And they're not so nice to lesbians and gays and bisexuals either sometimes. Oh, my goodness sakes. We know absolutely that intersectional issues of race and class, inequality and identity, all demand our full attention and action, as do gender equity, reproductive rights, equal pay, affordable physical and mental health, housing, homelessness, youth, elders. There is a lot to do. There's a lot to do. And we have a moment, as Greta has said in some of her other work, we have a moment now in history, you and I. We really do. And transgender does as well. And we've got to use it. Because it may not last. We have to act. So in these 40 or so years that I've been doing this work, I've spent so many days in those conversations with individuals. Well, now I don't know if transgender can be in our group. I mean, how will we know if you're real? Or endless conversations. Endless conversations. You're not really this, or you're not really that, and I'm really disturbed to hear that. But anyway, that went on so long that I think I do know something, and it's this, that all of us will need to keep building a solid groundwork for ourselves, a ground of principles, research, outreach, laws and policy, and public power. And we need to do this for the LGBTQ and secular communities so that someday we will be able to move into a finished building that will stay put and not be knocked over by legislative tricks or religious revivals. Yes, in goodness sakes. Now, sometimes I wonder if I'm going to be around long enough to see that building built. Incidentally, that's a real human experience. I know that now. That's a real human experience. It's behind all those stories that you hear all the time about almost getting there but not quite making it. It's the old stories, including the Promised Land stories and all of that. It's human life. There's no gods needed. But it sure is real. It's emotional. I know that now. But here's an idea to respond to all that. You who fight now must drain us of all we know. You must. You must. You can use what you want, use what you need, but at least you'll have it. Because our LGBTQ organizations are not always so good in remembering. We don't remember well. I think the secular movement is better, but I'm not entirely sure. None of us go in for weekly services that keep old, fusty, dirty, ruined, and worn out ideas in the forefront. We just don't do it. We want to get out and do other things. We sometimes don't have time to educate each other or welcome in each other or get past our ego battles. Oh yeah, we've got lots of pride parades. I love them, although they wear me out. But I love them. However, even there, my goodness sakes, so many of them are becoming corporate. And I don't know where that's going. I don't know. We have such wonderful energy. Sometimes we would rather start a new organization than reinvigorate an old one. Now, I know there's a right movement to jettison, to get rid of a tired old outfit. But when we do, we sometimes toss out years of details as well. And the new group has to relearn how to finance, organize, deal with powers, and all the rest of it. And I've certainly heard, especially recently, from some of the newer activists, that we really need a revolution, a real revolution. And I know that some part of me sometimes says, yes, this system of ours is corrupt. It is corrupt and needs to go. But look what we have done, what we can do. We've gone from cold exclusion to much improved lives for LGBTQ and secular folks. Well, that is some. Not all by any means. Not all by any means. But is this enough? Is this enough? No. Will we let hatred, racism, inequality, privilege, meanness overcome all that we've done, wear us out, make us forget? Will we let it prevent our advance? No. We'll not let those horrors destroy our future. No. Let's have unity, memory, and mission. Let's welcome every ally that we can muster, every ally that's in a movement that can see how the powers that we represent, powers of self-discovery, identity, freedom of mind and body, and see how those powers amplify any movement for justice. Just kick it up like mad they do. Goodness sakes. Well, labor that was mentioned in one of the talks earlier. I think, Zach, you did that. Yes. Environment, academia, the intersectional issues, all get strengthened when we can bring our powers there. We can clasp hands in a circle of hope and action. So here's an example. And yes, August, you mentioned this. The big Creating Change conference that the task force does, with the help of August and others in the movement, Zach and others, and Greta, my goodness sakes, we're a pack. But with their help, I was able to, so I still have a position there in that organization, help get together a group to talk about bringing a new secular presence to that big conference. And 4,000 queer activists show up at that. That's a pretty big deal. So I'm happy about that. That conference, incidentally, now if you got a coat, be sure and come on January 20 through 24 to Chicago. What were we thinking? And join us for that conference where we will, I hope, be introducing more secular workshops. There's usually about 350 workshops, and more discussion of secular issues in that conference. It's going to be a process, but we'll get it done. Okay, but here's a rough truth. Here's a rough truth. It takes a lot more than a conference or a march to change things. It takes more than a few thousand people in the street, although that is certainly good for morale and for message. It takes more than music and dancing, although that's grand for a refreshed self. It takes more than a comment, although a great blog or idea can at times have the strongest of wings, and we are still awaiting a manifesto. I know you can do it. And we need more policies and laws. Now, I know about that. I know that that's not all. But we do need more policies and laws because our opposition is very, very good at dismantling what we put in place. They will stay the course. I don't want to give them any credit. But they will stay the course and bang and chip and hammer and bother us, pulling away our wins little by little if we are not alert, careful, and always at work. We need unified political folks in every legislature and body. That will help. That will help a lot. And even if they aren't the electeds themselves, but are decent lobbyists, they can let us know when the sneak attacks are in progress. Incidentally, you know, at home we hook up with Equal Rights Washington, which is a statewide LGBT political group for advice and mutual learning. It's a powerful tool that helps respond to these issues. We need great public schools again, not ones that are there for money and vouchers. We need tools like the LGBTQ Task Force's online learning center so that every activist, wherever they are, whatever town they are in, can get some help. And I know there's secular equivalents to that, and you're building them. We need those so that everybody can get those tools. Yes, and we need more projects like Out in Front. That's a Seattle-based organization. Pleased to have been part of getting that thing going, which is a 9-month leadership training for the LGBTQ community. We're in our, I think, 6th year now, and it's really working. That leads to leadership. A lot of the boards that exist in that area are now beginning to see graduates from that come to them, bringing their strengths. They know their issue, for example, secular. They know those issues, but maybe they don't know how to read a financial report or what to do on boards under certain circumstances, depending on what the board is. It's a good power, that. We need more films and books and storytellers and venues that speak from a secular point of view. That's happening. Yes, it is. Glad of it. We need more people who aren't any longer afraid of LGBTQ. And I put it that way because there still are so many folks who might, on a not so good level, say, well, they're just too, I'm going to copy your word again, Zach, icky, you know, or too awful or too strange or too scary or whatever it is. That's a nastiness that we can deal with quickly with education. Yes, we can. But there's another kind. There's a benign kind of fear where someone is afraid to get into conversation because, well, they have a good heart and they don't want to offend me, or they don't want to say the wrong word, or they don't want to do the wrong thing. But I wish they would just come and talk, because we can find a respectful way to do it. Yes, we can, and we can have that conversation and not miss that point. We need more allyship groups that bring old and young organizations and individuals together. Even LGBTQ believers and secular folks. For me, that's still an interesting conundrum, but I know it has to happen. I mean, that conference, my goodness sakes, when you see it, you will see the faith-based component, which is huge. Now, they're great people who help us all the time. but I would like to see the equal in secular movement there as well, so that conversation can carry on. We need more state health conferences that feature lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, questioning, queer, all of us components. Incidentally, how many state healthcare systems, what's left of them, how many state healthcare systems have within them employees who will use religious exemptions and religious arguments to thwart the services? A lot more than I had ever thought. They're certainly out there, and that we just have to watch. We do indeed. We need more coalitions, like the Coalition for Inclusive Healthcare. About 2 years ago, I and a few others got that started in Washington State, and our mission was to engage with insurance issues. And so, first we took on the fact that there was discriminatory language against transgender people actually written into many of the public offerings, the companies that would come into Washington State to sell their insurance. There'd be a little paragraph, we do not provide anything regarding transsexual or transgender issues, that sort of thing. And we won. We got the state insurance commissioner to require that to be removed from the language. Now, it doesn't mean they have to service, but it means that language can't be there any longer. So that's a win. Then we took on the issue of public employees in Washington State, and now, yes, we won. They're covered. Healthcare for transgender and gender identity issues is now covered in Washington State for public employees. And then we said, what the heck? And we took on Medicaid. And we won! And we won! Oh, yeah. It was a long process. Again, questions like, but how will we know who you are, you transgender person, you? And things like that would come up, but we did win. Now, we didn't win it all, but we got some really basic care for the first time on Medicaid responding to gender and gender identity issues. And we still have a lot of work to do there to get it fully coverage. Oh, there'll be new questions like a lot of the docs may not take the amount of money they're going to get from Medicaid, but that's more work. We'll get it. We'll get it. We need more leaders talking to leaders in rural areas, going out there and doing the business. Now, I remember doing that, traveling around Washington State a lot some years ago, but for some reason, we haven't been able to get it together to do that like we used to. It's something about the commodification of things. Sorry, I could rant on that for a bit, but I do think we just need to jump in somebody's car and go and do it. We've got to, because folks are struggling out there. So all of this will keep us busy for a while. Don't you think? Yes, yes. In fact, in a moment, I would like to know what you do think about this and what you do think about advancing our movements. Let's talk a little bit. Also, I love to talk about trans stuff. I just can't help myself there. So let's talk anything regarding that you'd like for whatever time we have left, but I'm winding up. In fact, what do we need? Do we need Trans 101 trainings? Do we need secular trainings? Do we need a big old pot of gold? I mean, what is it that we really... Yeah, okay, I'll take that too. But here's this. Why shouldn't we, you and I, all of us, why shouldn't we together be the engine that drives and energizes, re-energizes a new movement for justice and reason across the whole show, across the whole land? Yes, you know, at one time it was labor. At one time it was labor that was out there doing that and bringing in all the groups because everybody works. Well, labor's been smashed by those people that won't quit until they smash us all. Oh, I'm getting worked up. Won't quit until they smash us all. Well, let's show them what the combined power of us can do. Yeah, why not us? Why not us? So, yes. Yes, that's it. That's it. A world awaits. The time to be happy, yes, yes. And the time to be busy is now. All right.